Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's TruckLogics webinar. We got a special treat for you guys today. We're going to wait just a couple more minutes to get started here, but if you've never used GoToMeeting before, you're going to have a control panel. It should be on your right-hand side of your screen, and right now you're muted, so we can't hear you, but at the end of the webinar, we are going to do a question Q&A session. And we can unmute you at that time if you want to ask your question over the air. There's also a questions box in that control panel, so you can feel free to type in a question throughout the webinar, and we will answer those at the end of the presentation. So we're going to start here just a moment. Go ahead and get comfortable, and we'll begin soon. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, this webinar is brought to you by TruckLogics. TruckLogics is a TMS software business management tool owned by Span Enterprises, which is our parent company. This is just a quick review of some of the products that Span offers. So again, this is brought to you by TruckLogics. That's our premier truck management software. So if you're an owner-operator, small fleet owner looking for a TMS solution, that's a great tool you can utilize. And it does come with a free trial. If you want to check that out. Some of you may be from Express Truck Tax, which is one of our other products in the transportation industry for the e-filing of the Form 2290. We're glad you guys are here to review with us. You may also have used Express IFTA. That's one of our legacy products to help you with the quarterly IFTA filings. And then TSN America is our full service program to help you kind of complete 2290 kind of hassle-free. Don't have to deal with computers and stuff if that's not your thing. I also wanted to briefly touch on for you guys Tax Bandits, which is our e-filing compliance tool, and it offers a lot of different forms that you can file directly with the IRS. I think for most of the people joining us today, you guys may be interested in that product for 1099 generation and W-2 generation if you do have employees or contractors that you need to generate 1099s for, so definitely check that out. And then below, PayWow is our newest product, and it's a payroll software that we're developing, and will be available in more states soon that you can utilize as a payroll option. So, just a little bit about Span. My name is Brian Hinton. I am the product manager for TruckLogics. And I am joined today by our special guest, Jim O'Donnell, who is the CEO and founder of Trucker Tax Service. And we are lucky to have him today to go over some things with you guys about tax time coming up and how to prepare for it, and maybe some changes that you weren't aware of. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jim and let him begin his presentation.
Well, thanks very much, Brian. Now, I do want to start this by, I don't know how to sugarcoat this, but I don't see any screens other than the TruckLogics screen. I don't know if the rest of the folks out there are looking at the same thing. Up, now, there it just went. Okay. Now, because I didn't see the screen when you were going through all your different companies and so forth, that wasn't there either. So, I don't know if that you want to go back and, there we go, yeah.
Real brief, these are the products I was just talking about, guys. I apologize. And then this is me and Jim here to talk to you guys. So without further ado, Jim, everyone should be able to see the screen now. I'm glad you pointed that out. And let's begin.
Okay, perfect. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. What we're going to do is we're just going to kind of lightly touch on some of the tax changes. I'm sure all of you guys have heard, throughout the year and so forth that, the Trump administration made some pretty sweeping changes about a year ago right now that are going to affect your 2018 taxes, mostly for the good. In fact, almost all for the good. I mean, it's going to really have a significant impact on the owner-operator, lease operator, guy that has his own authority, S-corps, all of that. They're going to have some really significant changes for the better. And we're going to go through some of that. What we'll do is we'll just touch on that, and as Brian stated at the end, what we want you guys to do is you have any kind of questions, just write them down, and we'll be happy to address anything at the end of the webinar here. Now, as I stated here, what we'll do is we'll just kind of go through this quickly with it, how this is going to affect you. The 2018 tax changes, I actually had a conversation. What we do is we work with a full CPA group here. Trucker Tax Service does. What I always like to say is I have enough knowledge to be dangerous, meaning that I've been at this for a long, long time, but I still don't complete taxes myself. And the reason is because we have a whole group of guys that have masters in accounting that actually do your taxes for you. That's who you want doing your taxes. Well, I had a conversation with the individual that manages that group today to talk about some of these changes, and I will touch on them. Actually, we'll get to that here in a moment with different slides and so forth, and we'll also talk about what deductions are available for you as well, and then also the differences that have affected company drivers opposed to owner-operators and lease operators, and how the deductions affect the company drivers now. And then also towards the end, what we're going to do is we'll touch on a product that our two companies together, Trucker Tax Service and TruckLogics, have developed. TruckLogics actually developed the app for Tap App, which is a great business tool that'll help keep everybody organized out there. And what Trucker Tax Service does is on the back end, we provide all of the assistance from any type of questions you have pertaining to your business, to your taxes. I mean, you can talk to somebody like myself or all the way up to a CPA and talk about that. We'll talk about that and how a program like Tap App can really help with this. So why don't we do that, and then at the end we'll just talk about a promotional opportunity here where you guys can get into Tap App at no charge. So now let's just move forward here with the next slide. There we go. Okay, this is what we're doing is we just kind of weighed the differences here of what 2018 is going to provide for you opposed to what 2017 did. Now, 2017, a company driver was entitled to take all of the same deductions that an owner-operator, lease operator was able to. The difference, of course, being they wouldn't have the major expenses, the truck payments, the fuel, truck payments themselves, insurance. All of that was not deductible for the company driver, but everything else was, including per diem. Now, 2018, a lot of drivers out there are very concerned that they're not going to receive the same deductions. If you're a company driver, that is correct. You're no longer entitled to itemized deductions because you're a W-2 paid employee. All W-2 paid employees in this country are no longer able to itemize, meaning any type of, like most employees in the country or most people in the country, any of their home expenses. And actually that's not accurate. You can still deduct home expenses like mortgage, property tax, things like that, but most likely, a huge percentage of America are not going to have anywhere near enough in itemized deductions to get up to their standard deduction. The standard deduction has changed. It's almost doubled now. So if you are an individual filing on your own, single, your deduction has doubled from around $6,500 all the way up to $12,000. Now, if you're married, filing joint with your wife or your husband in that respect, that standard deduction has almost doubled as well. It's gone from a little over $12,000 all the way up to $24,000, which is just an enormous deduction. There is a small segment of company drivers out there that may be affected. If you're a single company driver that that's very good at managing all their receipts and so forth and gets was receiving a really large chunk of per diem because he was on the road, well over 300 nights a year, he may lose out a little bit. But the married driver that's filing joint, they're actually going to see a little bit increase in the form of deductions. And so just that tiny little segment of drivers out there, well, I don't know how tiny, but a small segment of drivers out there would be that single company driver that may be affected, and it'll probably be pretty minuscule, almost not even noticeable when they get their taxes completed. Now, for owner-operators, lease operators, as I said before, individuals with their own authority, guys that are incorporated, you know, they're operating as an S Corp, all of your deductions stay the same. In fact, it becomes even more important to make sure that you're managing all of those expenses properly. What you're going to do is you still get to claim everything you've claimed in the past, and we'll get to a list of deductions here in a moment, but you get, as it says on here, you get all the customary deductions. This is a no change basically from last year. The big change is that bottom box there where it talks about 20% off of your net income. It's not necessarily exactly 20%, and what I did is when I was speaking to this manager, Kevin, of the CPA group today, it's a very complicated process that, you know, of course, any kind of new tax laws always are, but roughly that's what it's going to be, is like if you come over, if you end up with, you know, we complete all of your taxes, you either do it on a Schedule C or within a corporate return, which is called an 1120S, and whatever your net income is. Say after all expenses and everything, you had $50,000 in net income. Well, that $50,000, instead of that $50,000 coming over and getting taxed, what will happen is basically $40,000 would come over because you're getting 20% knocked off. Now, it's not exactly how it happens, but that's, you know, to simplify it, that's the way it's going to work. It's going to come over. That's the good news for federal. You're going to get 20% off. However, it does not reduce your state by 20%. The states are still going to stay at the same level, and so you will pay the full tax on states, which, you know, of course, states are always much, much lower than the federal tax anyway, so you really shouldn't see that effect. But in this, you know, in this scenario, right there with that $50,000 of net income, you're looking at saving, you're not going to pay taxes on $10,000 of that $50,000, which is a significant increase. Well, what it'll do, it'll reduce the amount of tax you owe, and so it'll keep that money in your pocket. And the reason the Trump administration is doing this is because that money that everybody, and not just over-the-road drivers, but this is across the board for any type of business out there, you know, it's going to put billions and billions of dollars back into the economy, and it's going to help build the economy back to the level where we were quite a few years ago. So this is a huge boom for any taxpayer out there, and this affects anybody from, you know, families like, you know, the individual families that they're both W-2 workers. Well, they're going to get that full $24,000 deduction, standard deduction, so they'll see a bigger refund. And then anybody that has their own business, like over-the-road drivers, owner-operators, lease operators, they're going to receive that 20% off. So it'll be you guys are all going to be very, very pleased with this. Okay, now this, and then what we'll do is, Brian, I believe, told me that what he'll do is they're going to email each one of you that are part of this webinar. You'll get this email sent to you. So we won't spend a lot of time with this, but this is standard. This is the most common list of deductions that you have available to you as an over-the-road driver. Now, this is just a suggested list, okay? There's literally hundreds of different deductions that you're entitled to. The general rule is this: if you purchased the product to go on the road with you, or you purchased it while on the road, most likely it's a deduction. So now the only thing that you don't have to concern yourself with is any type of food per diem. So what you want to do is make sure that you're maintaining a logbook, that you're keeping the logs. Now, I know every driver, every truck is required now to do the ELDs, the logs, the electronic logs. The problem is most companies delete these electronic logs after a certain period of time, typically about 6 months. The driver is responsible to keep his logs. From the IRS standpoint, from an IRS regulation, the IRS requires that a driver, if ever audited, like say that driver comes in and says, I was on the road 300 nights last year, well, the IRS may want to see a log, and they want to see a personal log that was maintained by the driver. If you're not maintaining a log right now, start, because it becomes a very large deduction for you. And if you don't have it in hand when the IRS ever comes knocking on your door, it could really, really cost you a lot of money, because not only do they have the right to throw that out, and that deduction typically is in the neighborhood of around $14,000 to $15,000. What also they have the right to do is, if they throw that out, they can throw every other deduction out as well. And so now you're just in an unbelievable world of hurt here with how much money you would owe back to the IRS. So two things: make sure you maintain and keep a record of all of your receipts, all of your expenses that you have on the road, and then also maintain a logbook of some sort. Make sure you maintain those logs every night that you're on the road. Now, what we can do is, as I said at the start also, and Brian mentioned it too, we'll be able to, write down those questions as they pop up as I'm talking, and we'll address those at the end of the webinar here. Now, the reason you want to come to somebody like us, and I want to emphasize this, that, Trucker Tax Service, what we are, we're experts for over-the-road drivers. There are a handful of competitors out there that do offer similar services, but unfortunately, there's a very small number of us out there. What you want to do as an over-the-road driver, and I don't care if you're an owner-operator or company driver, what you want to do is find somebody that is very well-versed in your industry. And if not, what happens is, and we deal with this day in and day out with drivers that have gone somewhere else, they've gone to one of the big box stores, or they've gone to a local CPA, or Aunt Edith, has done their taxes for them, or in a lot of cases, a lot of drivers just do it themselves. They do, get online and do it themselves, and they leave hundreds and typically thousands of dollars behind that actually still belong to them. Or in the case of an owner-operator, what happens is you end up paying in thousands of dollars, or at least hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars more in tax than you actually owed. And the reason is normally the person that is preparing the taxes for you has no industry knowledge, and they had no idea. In fact, what happens, and this is where the slide talks about this, is, see, most of these, you go to the big box stores, whatever, they're just part-timers. What they do is they're hired, they come on board in, the first part of January, and they are literally gone by mid-April. That's just their job. They go in there and they just crank through those, 3.5, 4 months, and they're done. And that's all they work. But they don't really have any tax knowledge. What they know is they know how to use the software, but they don't have tax knowledge. In fact, Kevin, who I was speaking with earlier today, that manages the CPA group that I discussed, he told me that right now with the new tax laws, he's already gone through 4 individual seminars to learn about the tax changes, and he's still not done. He still has about 2 or 3 seminars to go through before tax time next year. That'll be 6 or 7 seminars more than some of these people that are preparing taxes in the country will ever participate in their career. So that's where you want to be careful. You want to make sure you go to a tax preparer that understands the industry. Now, per diem there, right in the middle. I'm sure most of you have heard the term per diem. There was until this year, per diem, there was 2 different types of per diem. A per diem that can be that is deducted off of your taxes, which I talked about with a logbook and so forth. You're awarded a certain amount of money per night for every night you're on the road, because the IRS knows that it's more expensive for you to be out there, so they allow you that expense for the food while you're purchasing on the road. The other per diem is a per diem that only would go to a company driver, and it's if a company pays them per diem, what they do, it's income that is not taxed, which is what most company drivers are hoping. Most most trucking companies that have company drivers are paying them per diem now, so they can offset their taxes a little bit, since they no longer have the opportunity to deduct it. Now, as an owner-operator or lease operator, what you're entitled to, it's $63 per night. Every night you spend on the road is your deduction. Now, What the Department of Transportation does is that's an IRS rule. Anybody that's on the road, any type of traveler that's on the road, business related, is entitled to that per diem as long as they're spending the night away from home. What the Department of Transportation has determined is that as an over-the-road driver, you're entitled to 80% of that $63, or what it amounts to is $50.40 per night is the net. Once we complete your taxes, that's what you'll receive for every night you're on the road. Now, that $50.40 can only be attained in the form of a deduction if you're maintaining those logbooks properly. So important, and big percentage of drivers out there just don't maintain logs properly. They rely on the electronic logs, and it comes back to bite them. So make sure you're maintaining a full logbook every night you're on the road, every night. Okay. Now, and then the other couple of things, I've kind of already touched on this, but the problem that most drivers run into is that what they do is they hire a tax preparer that is, not only are they not a CPA, but they have very little tax knowledge, period. And it just comes back to bite them. And even the big box stores that guarantee the best results available, it never happens. It never happens because they just don't know. In fact, I've dealt with so many drivers over the years that have gone to somebody else to get their taxes prepared and have been told that they can't put down this much in deductions. Like, a driver that's out there that's earned $150,000 that year, but has $130,000 in deductions. Well, the tax preparer gets nervous and they say, I can't put that down. That there's no way. Well, it's legal and it belongs to you. And unfortunately, so many tax preparers out there get in a panic thinking they're going to get themselves into trouble because they don't know the rules. They don't know the IRS rules. That's why you need to go to somebody that has the knowledge. So it won't, as it says up on top, it won't cost you all that cash. Now, the other thing too is, and it kind of blends with what I was just saying, is the deductions. They literally, most of the tax preparers, and it's my own personal an analysis here, I guess, but I'm thinking maybe 5% of tax preparers in this whole country know enough about the trucking industry to actually get it right. So whatever you do, when you're going to getting your taxes completed, the first thing you need to do is ask them about the knowledge. How many over-the-road drivers have you completed in your career? That's a very, very important part because it'll save you hundreds, as I said, and perhaps even thousands of dollars in taxes. Okay, now this is as it says up on top, kind of the shameless plug here, but this is what, and I touched on this earlier in the very first screen, what we've developed, TruckLogics and Trucker Tax Service, is as it says, a better way to keep track of your business. What you want to do is, if not us, I mean, what we've developed an app that goes right on your phone, of course, like any other app, and TruckLogics manages this app on the back end. And as I said, we manage all of the tax questions, business-related questions, anything of that nature. And then at the end of the year, of course, we're going to do your taxes for you. But with TapApp, what you do is it automatically, you have a bookkeeper right there in your hand. You open it up. It's a very easy, user-friendly program that you just open it up. You put in the few expenses you had that day, including like maybe if you've just received your settlement for the week, you put in your revenue, you put in the expenses, and it captures everything, and immediately you can produce reports showing how profitable you are. That is so, so important because just an incredibly large percentage of over-the-road owner-operators, lease operators, they have no idea of where they one actually needs 2017 completed. And I'm talking to the wife of the driver. They need this done for a reason that I don't need to bore everybody with, but they need to get it done. And she is completely stressed because she has no knowledge of what they did. I mean, they're trying to go back to January of 2017, so almost a full 2 years, she has to try to go back and try to remember what he was doing back then to try to capture all of his expenses and so forth. What this does, what TapApp does, is gives you the ability to capture that daily while you're on the road. You could do it. You go in, you sit down at the end of the day, you're coming off the road, you're going in to order some dinner or something like that. You could literally open up the app, put in the few expenses, whatever you did that day, and close it before the waitress even comes up to the table to take your order. That's how easy. I've had so many drivers tell me that what they do is they back in to drop off their load. They're at a terminal or they're at a warehouse somewhere. They just pull in, open up the app, bang, 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 put in the last couple of days, and they're done. It is so stinking easy. It's literally the bookkeeper right there in your hand. Now that's the app itself, which controls all that. The best part of it is, and we do get a ton of phone calls from drivers that are sitting there with their load, either loading or unloading, and they'll just pick up the phone and call us and say, hey, I just had a question. I'm looking to, purchase a new truck, or I'm buying a trailer, or I'm wanting to put slap an APU on my truck, anything along these lines. And they're like, how will this financially benefit me, or would this hurt me? And that's what we're here for. And the questions, like if you have any type of tax questions like that, and somebody like myself, if I don't have the knowledge to answer that, you have full access to that CPA staff. So you have a full CPA available there, all for the price. Now, it shows there on the screen. What we do is we charge $75 a month for this service. That includes the full app, the unlimited phone calls in here, that, of course, the app that creates everything for you, manages everything, will manage any business questions, tax questions like that. And then at the end of the year, we're going to complete your tax return at no additional charge. So it's it's just an amazing program that, as far as we know, nobody out there actually comes close to touching it. And by the way, this is a thing that however many are on the line right now that don't have a program like this, anybody that wants to come in and do TapApp, I was just talking to a driver just this morning, and he was nervous about, he was like, oh, how am I going to get all this caught up? I have to go through all my settlements. I have to do all this. Well, what I told him is you don't necessarily have to go back and put in every day of, like this settlement, was January 6th, and you don't have to go back and put in just that settlement. What you could do is add up all of your fuel, add up all of your truck payments, add up all of your, maintenance accounts, whatever the category might be, put it in one, just put it in on December 13th. Just put in $62,000 in fuel this year. It's all going to go to the same P&L anyway, and that way you don't have to put in, whatever it may be, 50, 60 different entries. You don't have to do that. You can do it once. But now you get yourself caught up. It's kind of like getting yourself prepared to do your taxes. It's just the difference is now you put it into the app now, you find out right away where your tax liability is. You find out what that net is. You pick up the phone, you call me or anybody here at this office, and you say, okay, my net looks like, I'm going to be in the neighborhood of, $35,000 is what I owe. Right now is my net income. Well, what we do is we put together a quick calculation for you and so forth, and say, okay, it looks like you're probably going to owe somewhere between $6,000 and $7,000 in tax. Well, it's better to know about that $6,000 or $7,000 of tax now than find out about it on April 10th when you're just getting your taxes filed. So now you have several months to prepare for it. How are you going to pay this and so forth? And if you can't pay it, then what we do is we're going to give you advice on how you can go on a payment schedule and so forth with the IRS. That's what we're here for. We become your personal accountant, and we will help you with all of that. And then also, if you find out now, what you could do is you could also purchase additional equipment. Like if you were really thinking about, getting the transmission rebuilt or buying that trailer or whatever, well, maybe buy it now, because then you can offset that tax before the end of the year happens. So it's really important, if you haven't done anything with your bookkeeping, to keep on top of what you've done throughout the year, right now is the time to do it. Because now you find out and you don't get hit with that, the blind side come tax time, which we have to make so many phone calls during the year to these drivers and let them know that they owe, $5, $10, sometimes $20,000 in tax, and the driver had absolutely no idea. So do it now, and then that way you have time to adjust to what's going to happen come April. Now I think that's really, now I kind of warps bed through this. So what I'm hoping to do is hear from a lot of you with some question and answer period. But now this is a thing, and I love this statement, that procrastination is the thief of time. And that second part of it, and your money, is so accurate. And the reason is I can't tell you how many times I talked to, like, the two individuals that I've just spoken with today and yesterday, that they're so far behind on their management of their stuff. Well, one, they haven't even filed 2017 yet, and it's costing them. It's costing them so much money because they just didn't manage their business properly. And it's so easy to manage your business with this new program that we've put together, with that app. And as I want to emphasize just so strongly, if not us, find somebody, find somehow that you manage your expenses, your revenue, and so forth, not even in a monthly fashion, but on a daily pace. Then that stress just falls right off your shoulders. You know it's done. You get into the habit. It takes you 30 seconds a day to put in a couple of expenses, and you're done. And if you have any questions, you just pick up the phone and you call someone like us. And as I said, if not us, find somebody, because the program itself, I can tell you this, TapApp easily pays for itself, probably 4 or 5 times over by the amount of money that you save. And anything else out there now, there's probably several on the call that maybe keep their own type of spreadsheet or something like that. That's great. But what you really need to do is create a profit and loss statement each month, and at the very least once a quarter, so you can figure out if you need to put in, send in any type of quarterly tax filings. Now that we can address during the question and answer if you'd like, but so many drivers, especially this industry, is, I think, just the king and queen of procrastination reside in this industry, and it's hard. I mean, individuals like myself, I mean, I sit at a desk all day, and I still procrastinate getting, paperwork done and so forth, and that's even my business. I can't imagine being over the road, and it just becomes a second nature to procrastinate. We're giving you the tools where you don't have to. So now what I want to do before we did get into the Q&A, and I'm sure I'll talk on this again, but any questions anybody has that's listening in right now, please feel free to give us a call. You can call that number, that 888-799-1099. I'm extension 100. I'd be happy to speak with anyone. And then David, who's on the call here as well, David is extension 200. So either one of us, just give us a call and we'll be happy to address anything. Now, if you have questions about the app itself, TruckLogics is the place to go, and you see that number right there on the right, the 704-234-6946, and they'll be able to talk to you about any questions you may have with the app. And then also on our website, truckertaxservice.com, you'll find information on TapApp where you can sign up right now. Right now, get it signed up. What we're going to do is we're going to give you the first month for free. We're just going to do that. That's our year-end bonus that we're offering to anybody out there that's not a TapApp member as of yet. Use that promo code webinar, and we're going to give you that first month for free. And I guarantee you will be very pleased with the results. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this back over to Brian. He's going to open this up for questions and answers. And just please feel free to just launch away with as many questions as you have. I look forward to hearing from all of you very soon.
All right, thank you, Jim. We appreciate all that information. So what we're going to do now, guys, is open it up for questions. So if you have anything about what Jim talked about that you maybe have a question on, or anything about the TapApp program or TruckLogics in general, you can ask us now. Again, as I mentioned in the beginning, the GoToMeeting control panel has a little raise your hand option. So if you just want to ask your question and interact with us over the air, if you click that little raise your hand button, I will unmute you and we can hear you and talk to you. If you're not as comfortable doing that, there's also a questions box where you can type in some questions on there, and I'll read them out and answer them for everybody as well. So starting now, if you guys have questions, we can get into them. Let's see. I think I already do have a couple waiting here for us. Okay, so first question is asking, it's from Tanya, are IRP and UCR deductible in addition to IFTA? Jim, I think that's a question for you.
The answer is absolutely. As I touched on before, this is the way you want to think about it. Would I have purchased this product, or would I have been taxed on something if it wasn't for the industry that I'm working in? If the answer is no, I would not have been taxed if I was, digging a ditch for a living, well, then it's deductible. Anything that you're getting hit with, any kind of fee, any kind of tax, anything along that line that is business related is going to become a deduction for you.
Thank you, Jim. Let's see here. All right, guys. Don't have anyone using the raise your hand. Oh, I do. Richard, let's see. Or I'm sorry, Ricardo. All right, Ricardo, let's see if we can hear you. It says you are self-muted, Ricardo, so if you can unmute yourself, you can go ahead and ask a question. I think I have you unmuted on my end, and you may not be dialed in. So we'll circle back to you if you can get that worked out, or if you want to ask me the questions about Ricardo, we can do it that way as well. Let's see here. All right, so we got another question. How does the 20% of net income affect FICA owed? Example, I make $50,000. I pay federal on $40,000. Do you pay the FICA on the $50,000 or the $40,000, Jim?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't have the answer to that yet. We will by tax time. That is one question that I did not address with the CPA group this morning. My guess is this, is see if in the past, that net of 50 that came over, that's where, any type of Social Security, whatever, you're going to be paying on that 50,000. So my gut tells me that it would be based on the 40, not on the 50, because I can't imagine our government giving you a bonus of additional Social Security based on $10,000 of income that you didn't actually pay tax on. So my thought is that it'll probably be on the 40,000 that you'll be paying into FICA in that respect, or any all tax for that matter.
Okay. Very good question. And
I'm sorry, Brian, and just real quick to keep that, you come to us, get your, what I did with Kevin this morning when I was talking to him, he said they're still waiting from the IRS for the IRS to give them the rest of the rules and so forth with this new tax laws. So I don't even know if that would be a question that I may be able to get addressed right away. But if that's something that is real important to you, just give me a call or shoot us an email, and I'll follow up for you on that on the side.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. All right, another question here. It says, will this app determine which deduction is better? Example, actual maintenance cost or mileage?
Good question. I need to throw something at Brian here real quick. I don't even know if we have a feature on there to, do we have a?
That, for your cost per mile reporting, profit per mile, revenue per mile. So as you log, if you want to use the app to log your per diem, you can actually log a daily amount of miles you drove as well, and kind of run that into a report that you can see however you want to look at it.
Yeah, but I think what he's asking though is, see, like a driver, they either can write off their maintenance and their fuel on the truck, or they get 55.5 cents per mile as a write-off with the IRS, and that's what he's getting at. Is instead of, and to answer your question, I don't know if the app could break it down for you. What you'd have to do, the way you'd have to do this is just go in, and then Brian just stated, just put in your mileage for the day and see what it gives you in the form of, actually you could probably do that on a calculator by yourself. You know, just do it at 55, like 0.555 is what you do times the number of miles that you were on the road that day. So, you know, you drove 500 miles, what you're going to do is you're going to receive, you know, right at $277 in deductions. Well, then go and put in your expenses that you incurred that day from, and it's kind of an intangible in a way, because, you know, you may not have fueled up that day. You may not have had that major maintenance, you know, upgrade that week, you know, whatever it is. It's going to be a tough one to do, but I can tell you this, over thousands and thousands of drivers that we've worked with over the years, we've never, ever had a driver, 18-wheeler, I should say. Now, we do have hot shotters and so forth that'll use the mileage, but if you're driving a tractor and a trailer, it's almost never would it be a bigger bang for your buck to do the mileage instead of doing all the expenses, the maintenance and the fuel.
Well, I learned something new today. Maybe that's something we can look into in the future, Jim. All right, so it looks like we have a question from Eric Weimer. Let's see if we can unmute Eric and let him ask his question. All right, Eric, it's saying you're self-muted as well. So if you unmute yourself, I've unmuted you. You can ask your question. Let's see if we can circle back to Ricardo. Ricardo on here is still self-muted. So there is a way for you guys. There's a little looks like a little microphone on the GoToMeeting panel. If you click on it, you can unmute yourself. By default, you should have been muted from my end, so I'm not sure. And again, use the questions box if you prefer, or if you're having trouble with the audio, you can just type in your question on there, and we will be happy to answer it.
Hey, Brian.
Yes.
Just because you know, technology is such my friend, where do they find this microphone on the boxes? I'm looking here. I don't see a microphone if they're searching themselves for that microphone.
So you're talking, Jim. So yours looks more like it's going to switch back and forth from.
You know what? That makes sense. So I don't have it. Yeah, never mind. Okay.
Yeah, so it's just like it's on the left-hand side of the screen, and it's just got this little column. And it looks like Ricardo is maybe not connected to do it. No, that's okay. And we've answered Tanya's question. Very good. All right, guys. If there's any more questions, we'll wait around for another few moments here. Anything else you wanted to point out, Jim?
Well, there's just the only thing is, if you do have a question and you're maybe a little bit, you know, concerned that I don't know if I want to share this with a whole group or something, don't hesitate to give us a call, or at that info@truckertaxservice.com, just send us an email and we'll respond to you that way, you know, on any questions that you may have. But the biggest emphasis here is what we touched on before with one of the questions and so forth. No matter what you do while on the road, purchasing anything while on the road or purchasing that item to go on the road with you, it's most likely going to be deduction for you. Most drivers, and this is another reason, and I know that, you know, we're not here to promote this, but it's right here in front of us. I mean, with TapApp, see, the problem with most drivers is they'll go in, they'll buy themselves, you know, they're fueling up, they run in, they buy themselves a deli hot dog or a sandwich or something, and on the way out, they grab a packet of batteries for their flashlight. Well, that $5 packet of batteries receipt doesn't tend to make it to the expenses. Well, if you do that every day, and I'm talking, the little things, the $3 air freshener, the a dollar roll of paper towel, any kind of small cleaning product, these little items, they just don't tend to make it. Our average Tap app client now that we've done this for a full year now with them, what we're looking at is they capture about an additional $5 a day in expenses. Doesn't sound like a lot until you add it up. On the road for 300 nights a year or 300 days, you're looking at $1,500. Well, that not only takes care of the cost of the app, but puts more money in your pocket also. And what you're doing is you're getting peace of mind too, because you're managing your business properly. And I love getting these phone calls from drivers asking me questions. And so many times, Jim, I'm so sorry. I hope this isn't a dumb question. There is no such thing as a dumb question. If you have something that's on your mind, give us a call, and that's what we're here for. And that's where
Okay.
Tap App just addresses all of that. So that's where,
All right.
I don't know, anything else, Brian? Anyone else?
Yeah, we got some that reeled in while you were talking there. So we got
Okay, good.
Claudette here. I'm going to try to unmute you, Claudette, and let you ask your question. Claudette, are you there?
Are you there?
Yes.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
I was late getting in on this, and so are you guys going to have like a replay of this, what you guys have said?
Yes, we are. So we will make sure to shoot that out to everybody after the webinar. So if there's anything you missed, you can review that on your own time. But if you do have any questions you brought with you, you can go ahead and ask them now.
Well, I'm almost feel stupid because I don't know what you already talked about. So that's, But yeah, my husband, we used to truck together and then as company, and then we ended up buying our own truck. Now I book all his loads and do all the tax stuff, but I organize the tax stuff through that trucker gauge place, and then I take it to a tax, all that stuff already organized. But and I was getting in on this Tap thing because I've been on him about the receipts, little things like you're saying. But he's pretty good at that. But you were talking about because I don't know what our tax person does when I take it to her, in April. But what is that thing about the fuel or the mileage and the maintenance?
Well, now, is your husband, does he drive an 18-wheeler?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. It's really, really rare. What the driver was asking is which one is, the better expense typically to take, the mileage or the expenses of the truck. And we've never, ever had the mileage be a factor. See, like an over-the-road driver that is driving like a hotshot van, or something that it's not as heavy as a truck, because these trucks, of course, you're going to carry 60, 70,000 pounds, and you're
Right.
going through fuel like crazy, and not to mention the maintenance and all that. That's easily going to outweigh what the government allows per mileage. Like an over-the-road salesman, a white-collar sales guy that drives, just drives a car. He's going to take mileage. He's going to get 55.5 cents for every mile he's on the road. And that's what he can write off as the expenses for his vehicle because, the wear and tear on the vehicle. That is available for an over-the-road driver as well. But normally, or always in our respect, that for an 18-wheeler, you always want to maintain or use your expenses instead of the mileage. We've corrected, a gazillion, tax returns for drivers that have gone to a tax preparer that doesn't know any better, asks the driver, okay, what did you do? How many miles did you drive last year? I drove 100,000 miles. Okay, we'll put that down. They get $55,000 in deduction. Well, in reality, they had like, 82,000 because of their fuel and maintenance and everything else. And so they've lost out, they've just shot themselves in the foot, for $30,000 in expense. So you always just want to use your expenses and manage them. Now you're talking about profit gauges, correct?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, which is a not a bad little program. I mean it's nice. I mean but it's you get what you pay for there, and that's no support whatsoever. It has it's a good way to maintain, to keep track of all of your expenses and so forth. And I don't want to take
Exactly.
anything away from it. It's a good product for that. And if you don't use something like TapApp, I would recommend something like that, because it's affordable and it's a good way to track it. The problem is you still don't know where you are, where your tax liability is. How much do you owe on that profitability and so forth? And that's where we get
Exactly. Yeah. I know what you
we
mean.
get so many drivers that come to us with profit gauges and say, hey, and that's the phone calls we get to make and go, okay, do you know? And they're like, well, no. And that's it's the old adage, you get what you pay for there. With TapApp, what you do is even if you don't make that phone call to us, the app itself, the technology that TruckLogics has developed, it's going to produce a profit and loss statement for you, showing you. And once again, I don't want to bash the competition out there or not, but it's like profit gauges on steroids. I mean, it's
But I mean, that would rely on my husband doing it out on the road, right?
Well, this is the good news. The answer to that question is a yes and a no. This is the thing. How often do you talk to your husband? Do you talk to him at least once a day?
No, lots of times. I'm the one that books his loads.
Okay.
I do.
Okay. So multiple times in a day.
I do all the trip planning. I tell him where he's going to stop. All that. All he's got to do is, because we used to team together. We were team truckers, and that's what we
Awesome.
did anyway.
Okay.
So then.
Okay.
So that's what.
This is what I've recommended to a gazillion situation, the same situation you're in. At the end of the day, he's off the road for, that day or whatever. He's in his 72-hour rest, whatever it is. Then just go, okay, tell me what you've purchased here the last couple of days. You can have TapApp right in front of you on your computer screen. He can just tell you, you just go boop, boop, boop. You put in the expense, and then when he comes home, he actually hands you that receipt. And by the way, I didn't touch on this before. TapApp has a feature that what you can do is you can take a picture of that receipt, and we'll capture it in the cloud for you and maintain that receipt for you. So if he ever loses them, then now you have a record of them. But the best part is, he can tell you over the phone, and you can make it a daily process. I've had a wife of a driver call me and say, this is so great, because I talked to him and we do it. We have a schedule now. Right when he gets done, we make that phone call. He gives me his expenses. He doesn't have to open up his phone and do it then. I do it for him, and it's done. And see, that's the difference between what TapApp can do for you and what like a profit gauges can do.
Right. I do it once a month. I get all his receipts, and then I get the stuff off my end that I can get, and then I input all the stuff, and then, but like you said, you don't know how much you owe.
Well, yeah, and you're hoping, that he actually got you all those receipts, those little ones that I'm talking about, the $5 packet of batteries, that those little receipts are the ones that don't make it to the end of the month. And that's when the program pays for itself, and you're getting your taxes done. It's already built in. And see, now what you do.
The part I need is the taxes done, because I don't think that we've been going to this woman since we were company drivers, and then we've been doing our own owner-operators for 3 years. But I don't know if she knows that much about trucker stuff, so that I thought maybe I should have like a trucker person, so if I could, if I could get something that would actually figure the taxes at the end, that when after I input all the stuff, then that would be a lot simpler, and I would feel a lot better that we are getting everything that we can get.
Very good. And that's where we've haven't captured the amount of expense that they're really entitled to. And what we do is, when we're looking at it, we have a full organizer that would be complete. Like if you're not a TapApp member, you would complete this organizer, giving us all your deductible items, And what we would do is we look at things like fuel, for instance, and we look at the amount of gross income compared to the fuel, percentage-wise. And what we'll do is we'll talk to either the driver or the wife of the driver and say, okay, this looks really low. Why, tell me why your fuel percentage would be so low when we're used to seeing, in the neighborhood of 40%, you're down in 20 percentile, and more times than not, what we'll do is we'll realize they've missed multiple settlement statements or things like that, or they're just not capturing the expenses that they need to be. But see, they never know this unless they're talking to somebody that actually understands their industry.
Right. Well, see, we leased through our truck to Schneider because that's who we were company, and they have a choice board, and we're really good at do good at getting the settlements all the time and inputting those into the profit gauges. But I want to make sure that that somebody who knows trucking taxes is getting me the best, that all the loops that need to be done. So I'll be checking into this.
Okay.
So,
Well, now, this is what we're doing also, is we're already working with a couple of companies out there where, Schneider being that tiny little outfit that they are, it may be a bit of an effort to get in there and get this done. But what we can do with the technology is talk to Schneider's technology, and I'm doing this in layman terms the best I can. Brian's probably cringing right now. But what you can do is through the sharing of these technologies is the minute your husband's settlement statement was completed, it would automatically just populate right into the app. And so now you don't even have to enter any of that, and neither does he. And it just whoop, right into the app. We're in the process to do that with a company right now where it's happening. And we do have another company that when they email the settlement to the driver, it automatically just right into the app. So there's multiple ways. See, that's where I'm talking about that this is, profit gauges on steroids. It
right.
literally is so, it's just light years ahead in technology that can help you guys save thousands of dollars a year on taxes.
All right. Well, I will be checking into this because it sounds like something, especially like I was looking for it because it said that they had tax services there but then they weren't open for it last year. And so I need some, because they say that you can actually mail in all your stuff and then they'll figure out all your taxes and everything. But I just don't feel comfortable with all my stuff going through the snail mail, and then because you're still come to responsible when the tax man comes around to audit,
Absolutely.
You have your stuff and you don't have your stuff. So I like this idea of taking a picture or it automatically gets sent you and all that kind of stuff. So.
And the other thing too, the biggest thing here is, and see, Profit Gauges was developed by Kevin Rutherford, who had ATBS for years, and that's the way ATBS worked too. Is you mail all of your receipts in there, and you just kind of hope and pray that they're actually capturing those receipts properly for you. That
right.
$8 an hour person is doing that. What we do with TapApp, we empower you. You're the one that's doing it. So we build better businessmen is what we do. And because of that, the price is much lower too. You start mailing in all those receipts and so forth, that number goes up pretty significantly.
Right.
Where, because of all the labor that's involved. And then actually, then they'll do that and then they charge you to do the tax return on top of it. See, with ours, because we have so much sophisticated technology, everything is streamlined there, so we don't have to have all that labor, so we can keep our costs down, and you're actually doing it, a lot of it yourself, so you know that you're doing it properly.
Yeah, that's what I like. I like to have the control. So yeah,
absolutely. Everybody and anybody out there that says that they don't want control, they're just throwing money right out the window.
Yeah, no. So.
Well, thanks for your questions. Definitely take a look at this as we're running the promotion this month, and it's the perfect time to check it out if it's going into the new year, if you want to see what we're about, and we'd love to talk to you, either calling Jim or calling to talk about the software with us.
So how would that work starting so late in the year. I just would get it and start it for next year. Or...
No, well, what I touched on before, sign up for TapApp right now. We'll give you December at no charge. You wouldn't get the first fee until January. But in the meantime, use the app. And like in your case, Claudette, what you could do is pull a lot of the information from profit gauges, just put it right into TapApp. You don't have to do it daily. You could just do, this is how much I have in fuel. This is how much we have in, insurance, whatever it be. Put in all those. Get everything ready. So now in January, and actually right now, starting right now, get on the phone with your husband and say, okay, we're going to start having daily talks. I want you capturing every receipt. And we're just going to do it, and it'll take 30 seconds a day to do it. And you just boom, boom, and you start now. You get, as you say, get your feet wet for the next couple of weeks, and then you go into January, and you're golden. And 2019 is going to be a breeze.
But I mean, as far as tax services for April, because I have like all my monthly statements and quarterly stuff, I could just send it in through TapApp. So it would be updated for next year.
What we would do is TapApp is a separate entity from Trucker Tax Service. What Trucker Tax Service would do is, now you're a TapApp member, and we have a ton of TapApp members that didn't start with us until, halfway through the year, like we just signed up a couple this week. So, what we'll do is then we just treat you almost like a new tax client, and we're just going to go through everything, make sure we get everything. But the advantage of TapApp, what it offers, is now instead of filling out one of those deductible items lists on our organizer where you're handwriting in all this stuff, or better yet, what you're usually doing is right on our website completing it. Well, you're just completing it inside the TapApp, the app itself, and then we're going to pull those numbers from that to complete your taxes. And then all you need to do is give us just some personal information, where you live, how many dependents do you have, typical tax questions.
Gotcha. All righty.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm going to move on to some other questions we have following up. But,
thank you.
Definitely reach out to us.
And Claudette, feel free to give me a call and we can continue.
Okay.
But we need to get other questions. Okay. Thanks so much.
All right. Very good. So we have a question about TapApp from Marcy. Is the cost of TapApp deductible off, and then also do major repair, I'm assuming that's supposed to be cost, or go towards the P&L? It says hose, but that doesn't make sense.
Okay, so let me see if I heard you correctly. So is the cost of the TapApp deductible, the first question? The answer is yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That is a deductible item that you would not be using TapApp if you weren't in this industry. So yes, the answer is it is deductible. And then the other one is.
So I think they're getting at if do major repair costs go towards the P&L, which I'm assuming in the app, and that would be yes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's a category in there also for maintenance and so forth. And what it would do is it breaks it down into categories for you as well, where it'll show where that major maintenance is. And not only major maintenance, but any oil change, any, purchasing of new tires, or I don't know, the truck breaks down, you need to get it towed. I mean, any of these type of expenses, they're all going to be caught right there in the app and accounted for in the profit and loss statement.
And the great thing about the app is that you don't have to log on to a computer or call somebody to get a P&L sent to you. It's just right there on the phone, and you can kind of look at it any way you want to, anytime you want to. So we've really worked to make that as easy as possible for you guys to kind of manage this, literally from the road, from the cab of your truck. You don't have to go get on a computer. You just hop on your phone, and really just about everything you can do is there unless you have a question for Jim and his team.
Very good. And the other thing, too, that I touched on earlier with Claudette is that, you can do it from home, you can do it from the road, you can do it from any type of electronic device you have, phone, tablet, laptop, computer, anything. As long as you have internet connection, you can do this.
Yep. And as she pointed out, it can be a joint effort. You and your wife, or you and your husband can both do it. You can both be on it, have the app downloaded, and you can use it at the same time, or one of you can be on the app and the other one can be on the computer.
Very well said.
All right, so we got another question. Let's see. This is a good one from Tammy. Is asking if you can claim DVDs.
Well, this is the one I have to say, sadly, no, because that's considered entertainment, and the IRS does not allow that. It's like, oh, a big question is, you know, can you write off like a refrigerator in the truck? And the answer to that is no, also, because that falls under per diem. And DVD, technically, what per diem is, it's for food and incidentals, and the IRS classifies entertainment under the form of incidentals. So, sadly, no.
All right, sorry about that, Tammy. Let's see, and we've got a question from David, and it's saying, where would I find this TAP app that you guys are talking about? I'm on an iPad. I'm having a hard time finding the app. And I can answer this one, Jim. The best way would be to go to the website here, truckertaxservice.com, and go under TAP app, and you can enroll right there. Or you can call either one of us, and we can get you hooked up, you know, on the right path. So our contact information is up there as well.
Yeah, and to answer the further answer it's the actual name of the app is not TAP app. That's the program. The actual app is TruckLogics, but the program together is where we've labeled it TAP app. So that's why you're not finding the app named TAP app, because there is no one that there's not an app that exists under that name. But what Brian said, just go to our website, and it's right there. It's right on the front page, TAP app, and just go to individual and hit want to sign up. It's very easy.
All right. Thank you for that question, David. That's a good question. All righty. I think that is about it. I don't have any more pending. I'm thinking we hit everybody. Ricardo, we still couldn't get on. Let me see. Yeah, he's just disconnected. Okay. All right, so I think we're going to wrap it up. And if you guys have any questions after this, you know, definitely reach out to us, and we can do that individually if need be. I want to thank Jim for taking the time to join us today and go over this very crucial and helpful information with everybody. And I just want to thank everyone for taking time out of your busy schedules. I know this is a busy time of the year for everybody in this industry. So I'm glad you guys are on top of things and interested in learning what you got to do to stay successful going into 2019. And just appreciate you taking the time to join us.
And please take advantage of our resources. Reach out to us, give us a call. We'd be happy to address any and all questions.
All righty. Well, that will do it, guys. Thank you again, and look out for any. You know, if you're interested in more webinars like this, we'll probably be doing a few more into the new year and closer to tax time. So just keep an eye out for that. And again, thank you, Jim, for joining us, and we'll see everybody soon.
Okay, and thank you very much.